What's going on, guys? It's fight season MMA, and today I want to make a video talking about why Islam Makhachev is actually over Khabib Nurmagomedov in the GOAT conversation. Khabib Nurmagomedov, 29-0 in his UFC career, fought the likes of Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, Ali Quinta, Dustin Poirier, and he kind of lost out on some fights, possibly with Max Holloway and Tony Ferguson. But Islam Makhachev in the UFC right now has fought those guys and even possibly some better competition. Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker, a lot of different individuals inside the UFC. But I think that we're getting to the point to where Islam's resume in his UFC career is getting better than Khabib Nurmagomedov's, and I want to talk about that today. Islam is such a good fighter. Khabib is such a good fighter. And both of these guys are amazing in their respective ways. But Islam, in my opinion, is becoming greater than Khabib is during his time. And I understand Khabib retired a little bit early and Islam is still going. But I think very, very soon here, we're going to have to talk about Islam Makhachev being the greatest UFC lightweight of all time. If you guys enjoy the UFC content, please have a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. But without further ado, let's jump into the video talking about why Islam Makhachev is actually greater than Khabib Nurmagomedov at lightweight. So kind of starting talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov's style versus Islam Makhachev's style. These two are very hard to go up against and really compare their specific styles. Yes, they might be coming from the same camp. Khabib might be Islam's coach now, but these two individuals have fought very differently in the organization, and it is incredibly unfair. Some fighters you can really compare apples to apples, but these two, even though they are kind of brothers, they talk all the time, are very different from one another. I've kind of talked about how Khabib Nurmagomedov, incredibly reckless, goes in there, does a bunch of different things, overpowers your opponent. Islam Makhachev, on the other hand, outsmarts your opponent. Not a massive difference, but something that genuinely is, a little bit eye-opening inside the organization. You look at the amount of title fights both of these guys have had, and that is 4 each. Islam won off Charles Oliveira, defended it twice against Volkanovski, and beat Dustin Poirier. Now Khabib Nurmagomedov won it off Ali Quinta, beat Conor McGregor, beat Dustin Poirier, and beat Justin Gaethje. All those fights, same thing. 4 fights, 1 winning the title, and 3 title defenses. And I understand Islam's quote-unquote title defenses may be a little bit worse than Khabib's. Going up against prime Conor McGregor's a great win, prime Dustin Poirier, prime Justin Gaethje. Now, not saying that Dustin Poirier wasn't in his prime versus Islam, and I actually think that Poirier looked better in the Islam fight than the Khabib fight. Also, fighting prime Volkanovski in the 1, fighting a Volkanovski on 10 days' notice is kind of going to get an asterisk, but I don't think he deserves that considering he knocked him out incredibly quick. And obviously winning the belt off Charles Oliveira at UFC 280. And Islam's going to get another fight coming up here with Arman Tsarukyan, possibly at the headliner of UFC 311 in Los Angeles, California at the new Intuit Dome. But, I look at these two fighters. I look at Islam and Khabib, and we really got to start having the conversation. Is Islam Makhachev better than Khabib Nurmagomedov? Now, Khabib won the belt off of Ali Quinta in a decision victory. And then after that, he's got 3 submission victories in his next 3 fights. McGregor was a submission, Poirier was a submission, and Gaethje was a submission. Now, for Islam Makhachev, he got a submission win to capture the belt over Charles Oliveira in the 2nd round. He went to a decision with Alexander Volkanovski, KO'd Volkanovski, and subbed Poirier in the 5th round. So I kind of look apples to apples, and I see that these guys have finished their fights both in the same kind of a way. Whereas Islam has a KO, Khabib has an extra submission. They both have 1 decision. So that's kind of the same thing. I also look at the title challengers, and they're kind of about the same, actually. I look at Conor McGregor for Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Conor might be the quote-unquote best striker in UFC history, but he's also got a really big gap in his ground game. Islam, I think, has fought the more well-rounded opponents, even though Alexander Volkanovski coming up from featherweight. You got to remember that he was the pound-for-pound #1 fighter at the time when he fought Islam. In that first fight, he gave Islam a very hard fight, and I don't think that's a credit to Islam being bad, rather than just Alexander Volkanovski of how good he truly is. So I look at that, and I see that these kind of strength of schedule between these two individuals with Khabib and Islam is kind of about the same, but I think the biggest thing that is going to put Islam above Khabib is the future. And I think right now, if you told me that Islam Makhachev was a better fighter than Khabib Nurmagomedov in the lightweight division, I would 100% agree with you. If you said that Khabib was better than Islam, I would 100% agree with you. These guys are neck and neck in their position inside the organization, and I think that with one more win, Islam would be higher than Khabib in the lightweight rankings. Now, Arman Tsarukyan is a great win for Islam Makhachev in his next fight. These two have already fought before, and it was a very good fight between the two. Arman is a very good and underrated fighter in the lightweight division. He went in and beat Charles Oliveira in his last one. He went in and beat Beneil Dariush before that. And Islam Makhachev, as we all know, is a fighter that wants to fight the best of the best, and Tsarukyan is that right now. He's probably, like I said, the most underrated fighter currently at lightweight. The big thing with Khabib Nurmagomedov is you can't grow your career when you retire that early. And I'm not saying that he should have fought longer, because I do think that he was a little bit sad about how he promised to his father that he wouldn't fight without him in his corner. And he did that once with the fight with Justin Gaethje and retired right after. He's content with being at 29-0, but Islam still has a lot of tread on the tires. And even if he takes one or two more fights at lightweight, he's then going to go up to welterweight to possibly challenge for the title there. And I think that that is going to only grow Islam's GOAT status, quote unquote, throughout the organization. But I look at these two fighters and I see that they have fought the same, and I see that Islam is still going. And I think that genuinely Islam has a better chance, or maybe even right now is higher on the GOAT category than Khabib Nurmagomedov in the lightweight division. Now, like I said before, I would, if you told me Khabib is higher on your list, I gotta 100% agree with you. There's no right or wrong answer, because these are two of the cream of the crop UFC lightweights. But considering that Islam Makhachev has ruled over the lightweight division for over 2 years now with an iron fist, it's something that is absolutely incredible to see. And he's done it, honestly, effortlessly, considering that his only hard fight was with Volkanovski. And in my opinion, he did win that fight pretty clearly. And I know other people say Volk won and whatnot, but I think that Islam won that fight very clearly. And I see that these other fights, that Dustin Poirier submission was incredible. He not only beat Dustin Poirier on the ground in every category, he also beat him on the feet, which was incredible in my opinion. Knocking out Volkanovski because he understood that there was a discrepancy in his game. He was an awful head kick defense, and he ultimately slapped that left head kick right across his dome. You know, I just see so many different things that show me Islam Makhachev is going to be the future UFC lightweight GOAT. I think that only has to deal with more of him, you know, going and fighting more in the organization. He's going to have the most title defenses, I believe, in lightweight history, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know Khabib Nurmagomedov beat the cream of the crop in the lightweight division. His next fight was supposed to be Charles Oliveira. He retired prior to that, and that would have been a great win for Khabib. Now, Islam went in there and submitted Charles Oliveira in the second round, someone who has the most submissions in UFC history. You know, he knocked him down, went down there and got the sub. He also, you know, submitted Dustin Poirier, which Khabib did as well. And people were saying, well, Khabib's performance was more dominant and whatnot. But I was more impressed with Islam Makhachev's performance against Dustin Poirier than Khabib's. Not only did Poirier look better in that fight with Islam, he looked a lot more composed. His grappling defense looked amazing, and he jumped Gilly so early against Khabib Nurmagomedov, which really cost him that fight. And honestly, you know, it's apples to apples between these two individuals. It's just what you prefer. And in my opinion, right now, I actually think that I have Islam Makhachev as the GOAT, slightly edging out Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, if you guys come in the comments and say that this is a crazy take or whatnot, I understand. But Khabib Nurmagomedov 100% has a case and could be the GOAT for a lot of different individuals. I also think that in this next fight, if Islam beats Arman Tsarukyan and gets the win, I think it is undisputed. No one else could say that Islam isn't the UFC lightweight GOAT. He is that good. He might be more, I think he's more skillful than Khabib Nurmagomedov was. He's definitely a lot more composed. And I think he's that fighter who can go out there and beat any single lightweight in the world and possibly beat every single welterweight in the world and would beat a lot of the middleweights currently inside the organization. Ultimately, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Islam Makhachev, as the UFC lightweight conversation goes, is a very close one between these two individuals right now. But as Islam Makhachev keeps fighting, as he gets one or two more title defenses within the lightweight division, I think he's going to pull himself apart from Khabib and show everyone of why he is the greatest UFC lightweight of all time. Now, is he the most dominant UFC lightweight of all time? No, I think that goes to Khabib Nurmagomedov. But I think the skills of Islam, and I think just him being so technical and absolutely amazing in every little category that he possesses in the lightweight division, I truly think is putting him over Khabib. And especially if he beats Arman and Charles the second time, there is undisputedly no conversation that Islam Makhachev wouldn't be the greatest lightweight over Khabib Nurmagomedov. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think about your take on Islam Makhachev versus Khabib Nurmagomedov as the UFC lightweight GOAT. I really think it's comparing apples to apples at this situation. If you told me Khabib was better than Islam or Islam was better than Khabib, I would have to agree with you at this standpoint because their resumes are so close. Khabib Nurmagomedov, 29-0. Islam Makhachev, 26-1. And I really look and I see that these two guys are just absolutely different fighters. You know, it's whether you want a more dominant, crazy style in Khabib Nurmagomedov or you want a really calculated, technical killer in Islam Makhachev. But right now, these guys are very similar in their position as the UFC lightweight GOAT. But I think as Islam keeps progressing with his title defenses, beats someone like Arman Tsarukyan, possibly goes in there and beats Charles Oliveira, and maybe even one more fighter, I think that he is going to pull away as the undisputed lightweight GOAT. And I think right now, if it isn't apparent, it will be apparent very, very soon as Islam keeps showing why he is one of the best fighters in UFC history. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoy the UFC content. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.